Welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. And today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. Welcome, Susan. Welcome, Michael.
7 degrees last night. It was cold here. But we're going to have a heat wave tonight. It's going to be 13. So
Is that right? Oh, I've just
we're happy.
my camera's doing something. I accidentally clicked on, so wherever it goes in and out all the time. Now I gotta fix that. I don't know how I did that.
You look okay from here.
Yeah, I'm like
You're not
right. I'm
changing
right
here.
to see. Look, I'm going back and forth. You guys
Oh, it's
notice
on
that?
auto, some
I
sort of
know
auto
adjusting. Oh
adjust.
my God, I have to find how I did that. I don't know what I did. I'm gonna have to correct that because I don't like it. But anyway,
Some sort of autofocus, probably.
yeah, some really interesting stuff is coming forward. Holy cow!
Tell
Around.
us what's happening.
Okay, so I just got the call with Dr. Tim's call, and it's around my longing for something from someone, whether it be Duncan, whether it be a current person that I'm wanting mutuality and just like the exchange, being met where I'm at. And I can really find that deep longing, which I think goes all the way back to my mother, of not being met, not being
So
seen,
what
not.
goals have you canceled?
Yeah, this all came this morning. I woke up and after sleep time. I meditated till did breathing last night for a long time. Fell asleep, and then this all now came forward this morning. And these goals around, wanting someone else to see me or wanting someone else to meet me. All of these big things, because it can't
Sounds
come
like
from
ready
the
for the next layer.
yeah, it can't come from the outside. It's not there. And so I get to say I meet myself. So I wanted to be met. And then another one was I wanted to be able to rest in safety. And then I wanted to feel held. So I get to cancel those needs. And looking for someone else to do that for sure. Very clear and thinking somehow if I got it out there, then I've arrived. That's a big one. It almost feels like grief too.
Well, my offering would be that, from past relationships,
Hmm.
when the dream was there and it wasn't fulfilled, there's probably going to be a lot of grief to work through.
Yeah.
You have a thought on that, Cami?
I was just thinking when you were talking, Susan, in the last hour, can anybody really know us? 'Cause I have this same thing going on, and it's like, is that trying to acquire something that is impossible?
Well, I wonder what it really is for me is that I don't know myself truly.
Yeah, I was thinking that too when you were talking. That
Yeah,
it's
that's.
really about us knowing ourselves and trusting
Hmm.
ourselves, which I have done so many worksheets on trusting myself over the years. But an
Yeah.
exercise that I did the other day, which shifted things as far as feeling safe, was I wrote down 2 pages of things that I can do to keep myself safe.
Mm, thank you for
That
that.
I have felt like I didn't have the right to, or, somebody's going to get mad, or, to avoid dealing with anger and all of that stuff. And it's like, there were a ton of things I can do
Hmm.
to be safe. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I know
Yeah.
that it was helpful for me listening to you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And it's interesting. I was, saying there's the conscious part of me that knows I'm safe. There's still I can just see maybe fractured pieces that still just doesn't it isn't landed in the physiology yet. And so
Right.
I definitely will. I can see sitting here writing that list, what you're saying, Cami, and then also uh, sitting in those parts of me in my lap and giving them evidence of all the ways that I am safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that because there's still, I mean, intellectually, we know we're safe, right? We're
Yes.
love and we're energy that's never going to be destroyed.
Yes.
Um, but that knowing, I don't know, it just
Notice the
doing
word
that.
destroyed kicks in with that energy idea as opposed to, I know I'm eternal, but that file
Mm,
contains ideas of being destroyed. And my offering would be what I get energetically is that it's really about just being able to let go.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I be in a space where I can just be held in such a way that I can let go?
Yeah, that guardedness, I can feel that on my that last piece on the right side. Not it's being braced in it. That it's me holding it. That I'm braced in unsafety. It's my own bracing that's keeping me there. It's not anything doing it to me. It's I'm still holding on to energetic patterns of memories that are over.
mhm.
That's the past, and yet
You
I'm
want to
gripping
take your
it.
breath there. You want to take your breath
Yeah,
there.
and I'm gripping it as though, yeah, I can feel it right in my right hand side of my sacred heart and my right hip.
What do you have to soften to let go of to allow the breath to access that tied up energy?
Yeah, I don't know yet. And it's okay not to know. That's the thing. And I realized this morning, you know what? My feelings are my feelings. And they're not wrong. They're mine. And I'm allowed to have my big feelings.
Absolutely.
I get to feel what I feel. And that's okay.
It
And you have the right
absolutely
to
is.
change the thoughts that create the
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
And they open the space that allows other people to feel theirs to heal.
Yeah.
So that we can be known better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved what Dr. Tim said about, and he made jokes about the radio show on Friday, this show, right? That we're all talking about our positions and our symbology of what we're trying to describe, something that's indescribable. I love that. And I realize now, just sitting here, being in the direct experience of the sensation on the body, being with that. And I don't have language even to tell you what's going on here. And that's okay. And I can trust and be safe that Rukha's got me, or the energy, the mind, the truth of my being, the presence will assist me to take care of that when I let go, as you said, Michael.
And the way Rukha's got you is you receive her breath
Yeah.
at the deepest levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe my body's ever felt this level of safety. So it's just going, another layer, another deeper layer.
Yeah, and each layer you go through, there's going to be the effect of the thought disorders that created that layer of protection.
Yeah. And I believe that wanting to be met and wanting to be felt and wanting to rest goes right from the very beginning in
So
relationship
have you
with mother.
canceled those goals?
I'm going to today.
Cool.
We'll cancel those goals because,
Yeah,
yeah,
and let the breath in.
yeah,
There's that. I'm realizing more and more that when you give that sustained still point breath to your body, that there's a point where that extra factor, that other factor that I'm now labeling the Kudsha factor, starts to move at depth
Yeah.
and dissolve anything that does not belong.
You know what I realized? Those three things I said about wanting to be met, wanting to rest, and wanting to feel held. This is deeply in my family system trauma, replicated from generations. Yeah.
What would it be like to just be able to let go and stand in a space of being
Yeah. Yes.
without regard to anything else? And the thing that will deliver that experience is the breath.
Yeah.
Then once you have that experience, often you shall be able to extend it to another, and they'll be able to extend it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel that. It's my own guardedness keeping me in separation of it. I just got that. Keeping
That's where the breath
myself.
needs to go,
Yeah.
down to that. And, recognizing from your history, those what are now functions thought disorders, they were justified.
Yeah.
In the space of that kind of attack and trauma,
Yeah.
it was fully justified.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll do worksheets today. I appreciate that because it's unfurling just this morning, all of this. So it's nice to just bounce it off and have other people's reflections back to me so I can go deeper with it. Thanks so much.
Breathing with you.
Yeah, you bet.
Really, truly breathing with you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. And Cami, thank you so much for your shares and everybody else holding space.
Yeah, I've been working on this too. And what do you guys think about? I mean, can we really be known by somebody else because they're having their experience? Because I have this longing to be known, to be seen. And I mean, you guys know things about me. And Susan, remember at the intensive when you were telling me things that you see in me, and I'm like, that is not how I see myself at all, which was
Yeah.
really cool
Yeah.
because I'd rather be that person that you were seeing.
And you are that person I was seeing. In my I'm looking at you, so you are that reflection to me, so you exist that way in my presence. Because
Right.
that is what I'm seeing in our exchange. So it's true for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was helpful for me. And then I talked to, do you remember when we first met, you told me that you saw me being a speaker?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I know a lot of times on the show, and when I'm in upset, I can't find my words. I can't. I go to this infantile state where I can't speak. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, Cami, you speak so articulately and precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that just does not fit because I'm judging myself based on what I am in a healing crisis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
And remember that. Go ahead.
I was like, I don't know why that took me there, but it did. And
My offering would be that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's perhaps an aspect of trying to figure it out. Oh, if I could just understand this, if I could just figure that, if I could grasp this with my mind, and remember that one of the objectives is to free yourself of your mind, to free yourself of perception, literally that whole world.
Interesting, because I see it as me wanting to know myself, not trying to figure it out in my mind, and know in my being that I am love.
That presumes there are two of you.
And also, love doesn't seek itself, it knows.
It is.
Yeah.
Remember that story I talk about when I talk about words? Word is a tool of communication, indicative of an interaction between two. Notice there are words running in my head, words running in your head. If there are words running in your head and you're not communicating with someone else, then who's in there with you? That's all part of the perceptual game, that forgiveness collapses and breath takes you into the direct experience. And then you try to talk about it, and it's a challenge to even put it into words, because it comes from a realm, when you look at how minuscule the 9-bit mind is compared to, it's been estimated the actuality in that time frame where the 9-bit mind has 9 bits of data available, there are perhaps 20 trillion bits of data. So how are we going to shoehorn that? How are we going to put that, 8-foot 2x4 in the space, the 8-inch between our ears? It's not going to go.
Yeah, Tim kind of touched on that too on the show, and I was wondering, so if I'm sitting down at the beach and I'm just noticing the beauty of it, that's with thought. How I'm missing something here, because it's only with the thought that I can notice the beauty and observe that which is around me. Can you help me out with that?
My take would be that goes back to the perceptual mind. That goes back to perception. And, think about the points. Compare, let's imagine that spot where you're in the beauty of the beach and you're appreciating it with your mind. But then think about the times when you've gotten that Dekucha factor going with your breath. And it's the difference of night and day. And there's nothing it's beyond description, it's beyond words, it's indescribable, and it's being directly there. And the mind can't grasp that, the mind can't figure that out. But I can appreciate it when I allow myself to be in that space.
And
Go ahead.
Sorry, Michael. I just wanted to add that one piece around what Michael's saying, that he said the direct experience. He said direct. So a thought is even one step removed from the experience of what is. And then when we try to describe it with language, the language,
symbols of symbols.
They're symbols of symbols. And when you're in the direct experience of something, words often aren't even present when you're sitting in the presence of something. Like even from the example, it's like, for example, even right now, the sensations on my body, what's happening. I don't even have names for it, but I can tell you there's a sensation there.
Right. As you guys were speaking, I was remembering being at the beach and the peace, which is a word, that feeling that there are no words for. Is that what you mean? Like the sensations?
Mm-hmm. The experience you're having. So, and we don't have language for those. Some of those you can't even. Some of it is so profound. There is no language to describe what the direct experience is happening. And I've had those even in the breath work. It's beyond even when I go into the super processor.
Right.
And you've experienced that for sure.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
images are coming in, and sometimes it's in the body, things are moving, or we're in the direct experience of it beyond language. And then you come back and you even said, I don't have words for what I experienced.
Right.
And what
Right.
you experienced, that was the direct experience of the moment. And so when you're giving the example of being on the beach and being immersed in experience, and I can even
Right.
feel that with you being in the moment, because then the illusion disappears and you become it.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely. Thank
I
you,
mean,
guys.
imagine taking the still point to the beach with you, and then let's see if we can talk about it. It's like, and we've been taught, our whole lives, we've been taught, everybody around us is, experiences what happens with perception, what happens with the mind, what we see or we think we see, the images we generate, the sensations we experience. And then real life is the breath, and it changes everything. But putting it
And I
into
know
words is the challenge.
I know this is trying to figure it out. I have to ask, how does does that even fit with the idea of being the observer? When I thought that I was observing, I was putting words to it. But what are they talking about? What you were just talking about is that felt sense versus trying to even put words to it.
That's the trick is, the best way I can think of it at this moment to at least get a handle on it of some kind is through the metaphor. I'm sitting in a room, you're sitting in a room, there's certain objects in the room, there's probably a desk and a chair and whatever, there's a light and maybe a fan or a TV set or some art on the wall or a window or whatever. And the ant sits here and quote unquote looks at all of that. But what's their experience? The fly looks at that. Now the frog certainly has a much richer experience, one would think, than the ant or the fly. And then the whale looks at it, and we look at it. Each one, the instrument they have, is looking at what the instrument can present and calling that life. When the objective is, my take would be to go beyond that to what is it that each mind is trying to interpret and bring into an experience, and be in that directly. And what, if the ant looks at it, the ant looks at, how much data the fly, the frog, the whale, the human. But what's the actuality behind it? And are we capable of being with that? And then we'll try to bring it into words. We'll try to bring it in and say, well, let's see how I can talk about it. We train our minds to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a definite challenge in trying to get to that. But one of the
Okay.
things that for me I go back to is, and I've shared with you that more and more the breath practice is becoming more important to me. And when I feel that the Kudzu factor kick in, it's usually 15 or 20 minutes of sustained still point, then something else opens that I can't even talk about. I can taste it. I can experience it. I get, I get some sort of a sense of it, but how do we even start to to say a thing about it when the only words we have are words that are in common experience. And unfortunately, the common experience today is, for most people, a world of hostility and fear.
Right. So I was just breathing through all of that, and a whole bunch of stuff was moving from my shoulder. So something's happening. But I'm
Joining
not
you and
gonna
getting
try
that Dikucha factor moving.
I'm not gonna try to add any more words to that. Um, I think
Holding the space with you.
that was helpful. Thank you.
Cool.
Michael?
Yes, Miss Susan B., I was just going to say hello to you, young lady, and tell you that we are holding the space for your opening experience tomorrow, that the heart and the mind and the hands of your surgeon are going to be perfectly tuned to you to just bring the highest outcome possible for your physiology and your ability to dance.
Thanks. I'll take that. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I wanted to ask, I know you've explained before, could you explain the Dikucha phenomenon again?
Okay. So this is, something I've just been working on the last few days in my own still point practice, and recognizing that, in the Aramaic language, the breath, there are three qualities of breath. There's the breath that everything and everybody breathes. The dog breathes it, the cat breathes it, the ant breathes it, they all breathe. That's Rukha. But then there is a category of breath. Well, the second one is, in Aramaic, is the breath of confusion, where hostility and fear are active, and the breath is erratic, the breath is held, it's locked down, it's tied up, it's blocked, energy, is reflected in that. But then there's a term from the Aramaic that speaks of the breath that the Creator designed for humans. And that's the breath that we were given with our first breath, Rukha Dikucha. And so it's just like in just the last couple of days, I've realized that most of us think we know what we're talking about when we talk about the breath, and what we, kind of what we're talking about is, well, you got nostrils and you got lungs and you breathe and air comes in and air goes out. And if you don't breathe, then you die because you're out of oxygen, like as though that were the sum and total of the breath. And what I've been realizing is that it's not the sum and total of the breath. There's a big piece missing. And the big piece is, and I had shared, I don't even know if it was on the show on Friday or maybe it was in the either in the Still Point Breathing Club session, that I shared that I was coining a new term, that there's something else we need to begin to comprehend when we use the word breath. And it's not just about oxygen and an air exchange, but there is this, it's like we're missing 90% of the definition of the breath when we think of it as, well, you just take a breath, everybody breathes or they hold the breath and that's it. But we're missing 90% of it. So I decided, I think it was Friday, to coin this term, the Dikucha factor. And that's the other 90% of the breath, that when we allow it to fully move in us, that's where that still point opens. That's where we go to that other level, and we're claiming the heritage, the breath that God gave us, that the Creator gave us at our birth. That is the breath that contains intelligence and healing power when we'll let it move in us. So I've just started this project. It's either Thursday or Friday. I first brought it up and brought up this idea of the Dikucha factor, and trying to find a way to express what I think is we think about, let's say we have a word for a horse, and we have a horse, field, hay, ride, beautiful, mane, big eyes, gentle, mustang, we comprehend horse. and we maybe comprehend 60% of the word horse, but I'm realizing that when we say breath as though it's just another word, it's just a breath, we're probably comprehending about 10% of what it is and leaving 90% out. So I'm attempting to bring in what that other 90% is by calling it the Dikucha factor. So Rukha Dikucha, the breath that was specifically designed for humans, that makes of us, according to the most ancient source. I think I shared with you that when I was researching to do Jeannie's introduction, I went back to a thing called the Targum Onkelos, which is one of the most ancient Aramaic sources based in Hebrew sources, and that it doesn't talk about the Creator put the breath of life in us, we became a living soul, but rather we became a speaking, thinking being. And that 90% is missing when we just offhandedly talk about breath. So that's what I'm attempting to capture with that Dikucha factor. And what I realize is that we have been trained, our whole perceptual world rests on resistance, rests on Satan, the held breath. Like we squeeze out perception out of our hostility and fear states and our grief and our rage and our pain and our trauma. We squeeze out these perceptual constructs, and that's what most of the world has words for. But there is a breath that is literally made of the love of the Creator that we get to take in and receive. And we've cut off 90% of it. And so what I'm realizing is that this factor is one that kicks in. We did the Still Point Breathing Club this weekend. I was talking to them about this idea that, oftentimes when people are introduced to still point breathing, there's 20, 30 minutes of sustained still point breathing, and this Dikucha factor kicks in. The resistance is overcome, and one goes into that superconductor state. Most people, when they do their first or second or third or 10th intensive, try to do that, but they can't get that energy going because they've lived in such sustained resistance. Physiologically, this is physiology, such sustained resistance for so long that there just isn't enough, oomph to get up over the hill and get that Dikucha factor moving. It takes having this support person there for them. And then after some time of practicing with the breath, and my best understanding of it right now, I'm not saying this is anything absolute, but my best understanding right now is that the point where I've let loose of enough of the grip that resistance has on me. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to experience that. That hurts too much. This is too traumatic. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to look at that. And that all depends on shut down breath, resistance, sustained incoherence. Keep on thinking the same way, producing the same result, but living in the blame that it must be somebody else's fault that I'm experiencing this, when what I need to do is restore the breath fully to everywhere in my physiology where there is resistance. And that it's done in chunks, it's done in pieces when this, again, when there's support, one gets into usually 20 to 30 minutes of that sustained still point breath, then that factor kicks in and everything changes. But I'm trying to create, efforting to create a language that makes that understandable. And I hope I've advanced in my capable of doing this, which again, I think it was Friday, it might have been Saturday, I'm not sure, that I first started to really speak about or think about this this 90% that we're missing when we just offhandedly say, "Oh yeah, breath, oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you die." I don't think it's we die because we don't have oxygen. I think it's that we die because we cut ourselves off from the 90% that we're designed to be connected with. That is literally our very life force. There is no life in the body. The life is in the breath. And most people give up their breath. They hold it. They're in resistance. And that is the denial of Rukha. That's the denial. Again, the Greeks, this is such a key factor that the Greeks based their whole theology on tearing that out of Yeshua's mouth, Rukha, and turning it into some sort of a disembodied, ghostly spirit being, when it's our very breath. Does that sound? I'm not 100% sure that even sounds rational. I hope it does. Is that getting somewhere to where you're looking to go?
In various hydras are poking up. One of them is that in the Hindu tradition, whatever you define, whatever you put a word on, whatever you think you know about something, the Hindus would say, not this, not this. And Tim Hayes was talking about that. So you're stumbling along finding words is entirely in line with this, because when you get the word, it won't be that either, probably.
Right.
That's one thought. And the other thought is, I know that I'm not breathing right, and I don't have the patience to be with the breath long enough, being a fidgety person and so forth. I haven't done that. But it's an odd thing. In a weird way, I'm looking forward to going under anesthesia, because I can just let somebody else take over for a while. And so I'm thinking, that's not the way you're supposed to get there. It's artificial, but it's a lovely feeling for a while. And then you have to deal with everything afterwards. But I totally get it. You're trying to put words on something that you're getting near, and you're going to.
Yeah, it's wordless.
As I said in my chat, you're getting to the point where we can't have a radio show anymore because the words won't get there. We'll run out of the words.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know who Kahlil Gibran is?
Yeah.
So he in a book he wrote back in 1926, he wrote this: half of what I say is meaningless.
Yes.
But I say it to you so that the other half may reach you.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
what
that's
you're
so in
doing.
it. And the words, I think a lot of the confusion in the mind comes from the fact that we've tried to use words for a purpose they cannot fulfill.
Right.
As the Course talks about, words are symbols of symbols twice removed from the actuality. So if we attempt to understand truth through the use of words, it's futile, because the minute you put it into that frequency, you just created a symbol for the frequency, but the symbol isn't the thing.
Right.
The understanding, the true understanding, is through forgiveness and engaging the breath. The Course of Miracles says truth can't be spoken in words. And the Course, my offering, the Course, whether it's the Course in Miracles, whether it's Yeshua's Course, whether it's the Hindu Course, is not an effort. People who want to control want to turn it into a drug and say, see, I have it here. Here, you come and get it.
Right.
You pay me for it, and then everything will be okay. But to me, it's not an effort to tell us what it is or what it works. It's the framing of the way to get there. The Course says this: a theoretical foundation, such as the text provides, is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningless. Yet it is doing the exercises that will make the goal of the Course possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Course talks about words as coming from the world of darkness, but it's what we have. So we recognize we're using the tools from the world of darkness, and the Course talks about it as in order to proclaim its unreality, and then to fulfill the purpose words can fulfill. And that's not to tell the truth, but rather to describe the tools for how to achieve a direct experience of the truth.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like digging around the edges of the roots of a sapling to bring in the air, but you don't want to touch it.
There's an interesting passage from the Course. It would indeed be strange if you were asked to go beyond all the symbols of the world, words, of course, forgetting them forever, yet were asked to taking a teaching function. You have need to use the symbols of the world a while, but be you not deceived by them as well. They do not stand for anything at all, and in your practicing it is this thought that will release you from them. They, words, become but means by which you can communicate in ways the world can understand, but which you recognize is not the unity where true communication can be found. Thus, what you need are intervals each day in which the learning of the world, that is the constructs of the mind, perception, words, becomes a transitory phase, a prison house from which you go out into the sunlight and forget the darkness. How do you go out of the prison house? You breathe. The intelligence of the Creator's breath is what gives you that direct experience.
When Susan Lewick and Cami were talking about wanting to be known and connect, I think it boils down to this. They were both, especially Susan, struggling to explain her itchy discomfort. And she couldn't do it. And Tim was sort of nudging. And then Cami comes on and she knows what Susan's trying to do. And what you're saying, so we're doing this dance all around the thing.
And the resolution is in sustained breath that activates the Dakucha factor. And that's what dissolves all of the thought disorders that leave us in longing, in desiring, in wishing, and hoping.
Boy, Jean's book is a study in this.
It is. It's the first time in history that this is my take on it, it's the first time in history that the actual work of Yeshua has been put in writing, like the real gut level, gritty, grimy stuff of doing the work. There's nowhere else it exists. There's a light version. If you think it's a computer, why is this happening to me again? Is a light version. I have a conversation with Richard and we address some issues, but there's not the real grittiness of digging in and doing the work, and that's what Jeannie's describing. It's going to have a profound impact.
The lectionary readings in the Episcopal lectionary were about John the Baptist. And Jesus said something like, he's the greatest, beyond the greatest human.
Born of a woman.
Yeah, and yet, what happened to him? He was he was sure of himself, yelling in the wilderness, sure that Jesus was the Messiah and he was coming. Eventually, he gets thrown in prison and he gets unsure. And he says, ask him if he's the one. And the fact that he could remain true to his doubts and incorporate his whole self into the self that was presented to Jesus, or at the gates of heaven, or whatever you want to call it. I'm wondering whether that's what Jesus appreciated about him, that he didn't have any false piety or anything like that, or claim he knew something when he found out he didn't. He went with all his warts and clay feet right to where Jesus could just say, "Come on in, kid. All of you is what I love, and all of you I accept." I guess that was a teeny sermon.
Yeah, my take is that, when they talked about him being the raving maniac in the desert, he's what Yeshua is saying, and of course the other thing he was known as was the forerunner of the Christ. Anyone who's going to meet the Christ, who's actually going to connect to the Christ in them, is going to have to be shown what they're holding in carbon-based memory that they need to clean up, that they need to let go of. So John the Baptist was the one who could reach into that part of the mind and show people what they needed to deal with. And you've heard me say before, there were two skills that he had not developed, and therefore he lost his head. He didn't know when to duck and when to hold the mirror up. And if you're going to teach this work, there are going to be people whose stuff you're going to bring up, and they're going to live in their denial and their blame, and they're going to tell you about how it's all your problem. And as they did with John, the extreme of it, they literally took off his head.
Well, they killed Jesus too, and he didn't do any kind of denying.
But they couldn't keep him that way.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little different game. They couldn't keep him there.
Oh, man.
And you'll remember he also referred to, well, John was the highest of those born of women, and my offering would be, what he's saying there is those who are living out of carbon-based memory. Like he's the clever, he's the bright, he's the light of carbon-based memory. But he hasn't yet touched into the kingdom, which is of the breath. And that's where Yeshua says, and he's the lowest in the kingdom. He hasn't touched that yet. Everybody looks at him and goes, wow. And everybody wants to emulate that intellect, but it's not the goal. It's not where we want to be. Although the world rewards it. But we want to be of the kingdom of literally, and the Greeks gave us this con job about this disembodied ghost being. You look at that cosmology and you look at all the evil spirits and all the stuff they do, and none of that exists in the Aramaic. What Yeshua is inviting us into is the kingdom of the breath. That which we were given at the moment of our being delivered from the womb. We were given the core and the key, the literal breath of the Creator, which is the free gift of salvation if you can keep it. And you watch people and they can't keep their breath for a minute.
So, Michael?
Because they're carrying so much drama and trauma and fear and rage and unresolved generational insanity. Go ahead.
I'm going to put in a plug for a free pass. I had a Roman Catholic nun, a friend of mine, and I asked her, "Do you think there's a hell?" And she said, "Yeah, but I don't think anybody's in it ultimately. I think God's self will haul the worst of us in at the last minute." And I'm counting on it.
Well, again, this is more Greek fear. In the Aramaic, the word that the Greeks translated as hell and made into this horrible, terrible, place of fear and eternal damnation, the word was the Gehenna, and the Gehenna was a garbage dump outside the city. It's actually, I understand today that there's some very expensive condos on that land, but it was an actual piece of land where, the city's refuse went, and that's where they burned the garbage. It was the fiery place. And if people didn't have the wealth to have a burial plot, they would take them and burn their bodies in the Gehenna. So they took that whole symbol and they turned it into, this Creator called love created a place for people to burn for eternity. And that's the Greek cosmology, the Greek fear-based theology, which is not Yeshua's theology at all. I mean, if you look at there's one very distinct place where very clearly he could have gone right along with what was called the law of the day and what they believed. There's this woman who's been caught in adultery, and we should stone her to death. And what does Yeshua do? He informs everybody that wants to throw rocks that they're throwing rocks at their own unresolved issues, because he says, well, then, if you don't have any sin, then go ahead, you throw the first rock. And they all, one by one, he writes something in the sand. They don't tell us what he wrote in the sand. I suspect if we'd been looking over his shoulder and he wrote in the sand, and then he, did a little wave to A.B. and he said, come here, A.B. And in the sand, he'd written, A.B., remember last week you were with the neighbor woman? What did A.B. do? A.B. when his heart was known, he turned tail and left. He wanted to throw the rocks, but, oh, wait a minute. Oiving, come here. You remember that deal you did where you cheated your neighbor for, you charged him double for the product you gave him that you promised to deliver? Remember, you remember that, don't you? Oh, and Irving's gone. And all of a sudden, all the accusers are gone. He has no interest in judging, but you notice that in the Greek church, he's going to come to judge them in the end, in the last days. He refused while he was here. He said, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm here to bring the active presence of love, healing, and saving the world from that insanity. And they still went on and went, yeah, okay, well, we'll put him off into eternity, and then he'll take care of all that judgment stuff. The living and the dead. That's all crap. That's all just plain fear-based Greek cosmology crap. It's not Yeshua at all. He did warn the woman, what you've been doing is off base, so don't go, stop it. Let it go. But there was no condemnation in him, which, what is so much of the game holding for people today? Condemnation. It's time for us to let go of it.
This is going to sound pretty tough, but I'm hoping that if I can't breathe, you won't, or God won't, keep me out of the kingdom, because I can't or won't.
When you recognize there's only one of us, there's nobody that's being kept out. The only one that will ever keep anybody out of the kingdom, and the kingdom isn't someplace off in space after the body dies. The only one that can keep one out of the kingdom is the one here and now who does not breathe. If you notice yourself holding your breath, just be restored in the breath. That's all. Nobody's held out of it. Nobody's punished for it. That's all Greek cosmology. That's all, you look at the Greek gods, they raped their own mothers, they killed their own children, anything to control humanity. You look at Yeshua, and, the Greeks say he breathed on them and they received the Holy Spirit. That's where the separation is, right there. He didn't breathe on them, and he didn't give them some kind of disembodied spirit being. There is no such thing in the Aramaic language. There isn't even a word for it. What he did is he showed them how to enter the kingdom. Just breathe with me, guys. Receive this gift. It was given to you the moment of your birth. Receive it. And intelligence and life enters your form. And if there's been built up resistance over time, upon which pained perception depends, then it's going to take some sustained effort in bringing in the Dikucha factor, which when it kicks in, dissolves all of that old garbage. That's all.
So Cami and Susan did the breathing sessions, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if, well, Susan has left, but Cami, I was wondering if you experienced in that a connecting that you want again. Of course, we want it probably all the time. Is that related in any way to what you're looking for now in your life?
I think absolutely. Uh, when you say did the breathing sessions, you're talking about the quantum still point? I'm not,
Yes.
okay. Um, I
Or are you
experienced,
referring to the intensive, the recent intensive that they were breathing in the intensive?
Right. Because I wasn't there. I don't know
Yeah.
what it looked like.
um, um, so back when I was doing this work, um, years ago, when I was very committed to it, I was doing breath sessions, some once or twice a day, some at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. And that was back when I experienced bliss. I experienced the oneness and just pure joy. Um, the quantum still point has opened me up more to go to deeper levels. Um,
Have
I
you
wish
watched the video lately, Cami,
I
that we took during that of your
I have not.
get it out again and remind yourself? That's what you're looking for.
Okay. Um,
Remind yourself, go back and breathe and be with that again.
with the first three sessions, or no, that was the third session, right? That was the final one that I did the first time I did it.
Yeah, where you tapped in and you introduced.
Like Alex to my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
the aliveness, the joy, the life in that was monumental. And that's
it
what the breath
was.
delivers. And when we go into sustained resistance, don't want to feel, don't want to deal, hold the breath on this, hold the breath on that. That well is what we cut off.
Right. And I think, Susan, that is something that I can't really put into words. I know that my process has gone to a depth that I've never experienced before. Um, and I think that if I was doing breath sessions every day like I was back when, it would be so helpful. I just,
Well,
I know.
well,
I know, and I keep saying that I'm probably only doing a breath session once or twice a week lately.
good
And
start.
um
And Cami, I'll share with you that I mean I originated still point breathing. I've taught it and worked with people for 45, I don't know, 45, 6, 7 years or so. And I did not have a personal breath practice until I did the quantum still point. And now I take an hour to 3 hours a day and breathe. I didn't realize, you've been on the show, you've listened to the unfolding of my understanding of it and my experience of it. I didn't
mhm.
have that experience just from breathing people.
Right,
I had
right.
it when it opened for me. And that's what's led to this, you know, coming to this. There's a whole other piece to it, the Kikuchi factor that isn't included in our common definition of breath when we think about why you take a breath or you don't. it's like there's a whole other piece to it that is invisible to us until we step into the practice.
So I just went blotto.
My invitation to you would be that on a daily basis, you have that video sit right there on your phone, ready to just push the button on the home screen anytime and remind yourself and remind yourself and remind yourself of that live energy that the Dokucha factor brought to you, the aliveness, the joy of it. I suspect probably has never been anywhere near that in any other part of your life.
Well, yeah, that last session I got up and I was dancing and singing. And I don't sing in front of people because my voice is.
So that's our natural state, and it's resistance that we give it up to. Satan, this whole perceptual world, this whole world based in pain, is based in held breath. The whole thing.
Yeah. And I have
And
to
when we're restored to the whole breath, we're restored.
I think this was really helpful for me. I think like I'm feeling like there's not enough time in the day to do everything I want to do. And my breath
So
session,
set your priorities.
right, and my breath sessions now are usually about 3 hours, where before when I was doing one or two a day, they were only about an hour.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a lot more going on that I'm staying in that state for that long. And the other thing that's really changed is, Susan, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about my experience. I think it was maybe my second intensive, and I had no range of motion in my shoulder.
No, I don't remember that. No.
I was waking myself up screaming in the middle of the night in pain.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure it was my second intensive. I started feeling this energy move down my arm after we breathed one day.
Wow.
In the lake
That's
swimming.
the Dokucha factor. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. And that's what I was going to. So anyway, I felt all this energy going down my arm. And then I was like, Michael, my arm is just like this weird thing that I've never experienced
Alive.
happening. And he's like, how's the range of motion in your shoulder now? And I had about 50%. And then a few months later, after another breath session, it happened again. And I've had 100% range of motion since then. And that was in my late 30s. And
Now you're in your early 40s, right?
yeah. It's been many times around the sun since then. And now since I did quantum, the difference is I can just be sitting here and breathing for a couple seconds. Not a couple seconds, but for 15 seconds. And I'll get those pulses in my body in different places where that energy is moving and reconstructing in my system. And when I do the entire breath session, my whole body will experience that. And it is without a doubt doing the physiological healing.
So when you do that 10 or 15 seconds of breathing and you go into that, that's freed of your addiction to carbon-based memory. Now you need to choose to select time to process through what else you need to process through to make the time to do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about when I say everybody that I've done quantum with, they're freed of their addiction to the trauma-based, carbon-based memory.
Yes. And I
Doesn't mean
see,
we're finished. Doesn't mean anybody's finished with their work.
yes.
There's
And
still the work to be done, but the addiction to it is gone.
I still, yeah, I don't, so I feel like I've broken free from that in a lot of ways, and I can still go back there. It's kind of like it's like a short relapse.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep, I understand.
but thank you so much for the question, Susan, because I've been trying to put into words in some way the experience, and I haven't been able to put any words to it. And people will ask me, and I haven't been able to put anything to it. That's at least a start.
Right. Well, look at Michael. He's going, and look at
Right?
Michael.
And that's what I'm trying to capture with this idea of the Dakutsha factor, that it's the other half of the name of the breath that the Creator designed for humans. And it's the piece that when we say breathing, we don't even conceive of. It's like it's not part of our
Is that like the
awareness or
weh
vocabulary.
on Yahweh? It's the weh part.
Yeah, well, yes, that would be it.
Jeannie's got that in her book. She got there ahead of you, Michael.
The name of God is my inheritance.
Mm. Well, amazing. I think of you as, all of you breathers. I'm in awe.
When you get finished with this, you get in that car and you get your buns down here, and we'll get it. We'll get it happening.
Well, we'll see. Yeah,
And Susan,
yeah.
I didn't hear what you were having surgery for.
I'm getting a new hip in my right leg.
Oh, okay. So I've had 2 new knees in
Yay,
the
those are
last
hard.
year and a half. And when I got the quantum, the energy moving in my knees it happens every time I breathe.
Wow, that's good testimonial.
Sometimes, not as extensive as others. I mean, sometimes it's just, and it's not painful. It's like, it's not like the same going out as it was going in sort of thing, but if there's nothing else moving in my body, there's stuff moving around my knees.
Well, God, that's so interesting. Yeah,
So
carry on, girl. You're amazing.
Smoke and mirrors.
thank you. Yes, you are too. Yes,
All
we
right,
are,
guys.
woman. Yes,
There you
we
go.
are.
Yay.
Mm.
All right, everybody, holding the space. Blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Lots of love.